do you think his end game is going to go? How do you think this is going to go in New England? Because everybody's gone now. I mean, pretty much. I mean, some have come back. Pretty much the last of the do your job successful era that's there.
This was a very interesting report to read for the most part. And if you're a New England Patriots fan, this report may have come across your feed and it may have caused you to raise a bit of an eyebrow because, well, if I was a Patriots fan, it would cause me to raise a ton of eyebrows. And it could be either Bill Belichick has a tremendous amount of loyalty to his original staff, or maybe when you are in the New England Patriots organization, you have specific benefits that result in things working out a little bit more in your favor, or it could be something completely different altogether. Now, before we get to the content, man, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We're making a big push on TikTok, and I'm dropping exclusive content on my Patreon account. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The New England Patriots are one of the most enigmatic franchises in the entire NFL. Once a superpower in the AFC that was even referred to as the Evil Empire, with a tandem of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. No matter what pieces were around the New England Patriots, there was a part of you that knew that this team was always a contender for the Super Bowl. No matter how much turnover there was in their head coaching staff, in their wide receiver room, in their halfback room, on their defensive front, so long as they had Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, this team was always in the hunt for a Super Bowl. And eventually, Tom Brady left to Tampa Bay, and that just left Bill Belichick. And obviously, if you're a New England Patriots fan, some Patriots fans actually are thinking that it was all Tom Brady. It was nothing to do with Belichick. I personally think that Patriot fans were really spoiled throughout the past 2 decades and are expecting a rapid rebuild to happen way too freaking quickly. The fact that you guys lost the greatest quarterback of all time, drafted what is, I don't think it's fair to call Mac Jones a clone of him, but at least as a prospect, he possessed some skills that drew some parallels to Tom Brady. And the fact that you were even in the playoff picture last year, despite clearly not being the best team in your division anymore, is very impressive to say the least. I mean, yes, Bill Belichick has made some decisions that personally, I mean, for me, I think was a little bit reckless in terms of trying to get the team where they needed to be once again. Primarily the 2021 free agency period. I didn't really think giving Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar the contracts that they received, in addition to Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, may have been a little bit too overly aggressive, especially when you saw how this past year's free agency went. But that's besides the point. The New England Patriots have a lot to look forward to. Year 2 in Mac Jones's development. A brand new offensive lineman that a lot of people think should have been taken in the 3rd round, but hey, it could work out for all you know. The NFL draft is a gigantic crapshoot. The addition of a division rival wide receiver in the form of Devontae Parker. If he could stay healthy, maybe he breaks out this year as a wide receiver too. But for the most part, this year was very much different than last year for the New England Patriots. Their additions were way under the radar. For example, bringing back Devin McCourty on a 1-year, $9 million deal, signing Jabril Peppers on a 1-year prove-it deal after he ruptured his ACL, bringing back Trent Brown, which I swear, I feel like I say the New England Patriots brought back Trent Brown at least once every 2 to 3 years, and the signing of Ty Montgomery, in addition to bringing back a very familiar face in Malcolm Butler, who was famously benched during their Super Bowl loss versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which, by the way, if you're a Patriots fan, you're going to refer to that Super Bowl loss against the Philadelphia Eagles again. In addition to these players returning or just joining the New England Patriots, there are 2 familiar faces that are also signing on with the New England Patriots, and this is what is very strange to me. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you're a New England Patriots fan, this has to make you feel a little queasy, a little uncomfortable, and it's the fact that both Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are now members of the New England Patriots. Now, the thing that makes this very interesting is the fact that we don't necessarily know what their role is so far. I mean, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge technically don't have roles with the New England Patriots. As a matter of fact, if you search it up on the internet, Matt Patricia comes out as a senior football advisor for the New England Patriots, and Joe Judge, who recently just got fired from his position with the New York Giants, is just vaguely listed as an offensive assistant. Now, Joe Judge's previous position with the New England Patriots was strictly with special teams. From 2012 to 2014, he was a special teams assistant. From 2015 to 2018, he was a special teams coordinator. He had a little bit of a role with wide receivers as a wide receiver coach in 2019 as well, before taking on the New York Giants gig. But what's unique about this situation is Matt Patricia might be taking over a very pivotal role for the New England Patriots that I don't think any of us thought he would take over. It doesn't necessarily make sense from an X's and O's standpoint. I mean, let me just say what it is to begin with. Matt Patricia is reportedly the favorite to call the New England Patriots offensive plays this season. I mean, according to Dove Kleiman, the Patriots offensive play caller this season is trending in Matt Patricia's direction, a source tells at Jeff Howie, who is a national insider for The Athletic, which you guys already know how I feel about The Athletic. I trust The Athletic. The Athletic's a great publication. Now, it continues to say that Patricia was recently fired after a failed stint as the Lions head coach, finishing with a record of 13-29. I'm sure Lions fans recall the great Matt Patricia tenure where the Detroit Lions fired Jim Caldwell despite him being their most winningest coach in I don't know how long, and bringing in Matt Patricia, which was a clear downgrade at the time. But what's really weird about this is Matt Patricia hasn't had a role on any offense whatsoever throughout his entire career, except in two occasions. The first being when he was with Syracuse between the years of 2001 to 2003, and then the second was 1 year with the New England Patriots, where he was listed in the same role that Joe Judge is currently listed as, an offensive assistant. Now, I can understand the fact that you left the nest. You left the Bill Belichick coaching nest. It happens all the time. Younger head coaches or assistants will leave if a head coach is succeeding, take a job with another team, and once that doesn't work out, they'll return to the nest. You're seeing Matt Nagy return to Andy Reid this past offseason, and he is now Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coach. You're seeing Matt Patricia and Joe Judge return to Billy Belichick this offseason, and that's primarily because they're failed head coaches themselves. There are instances where a head coach really screws up their opportunity, returns back to Papa, and eventually they are able to rebuild themselves so much so that they get another opportunity. Look no further than Josh McDaniels. A lot of you guys might not even remember why Josh McDaniels returned to Bill Belichick to begin with, and eventually he became a sought-after head coach. Hell, the Indianapolis Colts wanted to hire Josh McDaniels to coach Andrew Luck. Bob Kraft eventually made Josh McDaniels an offer that he couldn't refuse just to stay as an offensive coordinator. It's really weird considering the scandalous tenure of Josh McDaniels with the Denver Broncos, and you could arguably make the argument that, hey, he may have sabotaged Tim Tebow's career because he drafted Tim Tebow with the hopes of developing Tim Tebow, and then obviously he had to leave a little bit prematurely during his tenure with the Denver Broncos. It's a whole mess and it deserves its own video, and I think it's kind of unfair to say it's Josh McDaniels' fault that Tim Tebow never developed, but typically, I've said it on this channel multiple times, if a head coach drafts a quarterback and never has the opportunity to develop said quarterback and eventually takes on a different job, that quarterback that was drafted tends to be screwed, especially if he was a developmental project, and that's what happened to Tim Tebow. But I digress. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of assistant head coaches a little bit too much so here. What Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are trying to do is obviously rebuild themselves, but the thing is that's really strange about this is the offensive play calling duties are between Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. I mean, this is all great work by Dove Kleiman, who says the decision has been between Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Patricia has coached defense on the Patriots from 2006 until leaving for the Lions in 2018, and now he's expected to be in charge of calling plays for sophomore Mac Jones. He spent 2021 as quote unquote senior football advisor to Bill Belichick. You could tell Dove Kleiman does not respect this position at all for Matt Patricia, especially if you're putting his title in quotes like that, but I don't blame him. I mean, look, I've seen many instances where horrible head coaches, you could either say they're a horrible head coach or the situation they were in was just not right for them, but the top coach that comes into my mind mind is Rod Marinelli. Rod Marinelli had an 0-16 tenure with the Detroit Lions. He was known for going winless with that team. When he returned to the Dallas Cowboys as a defensive coordinator, he was pretty solid. I mean, there were years where the Dallas Cowboys pass rush was looking pretty damn good. Maybe I'm just a homer here, but just because you're a failed head coach doesn't necessarily mean that you're a terrible coordinator. But what's strange about this is Matt Patricia hasn't been an offensive coach for almost 20 years, and he's only been an offensive coach once, and he wasn't necessarily an offensive coordinator, he was just an offensive assistant. Now, Dove Kleiman clearly doesn't like this because he said the last time Patricia coordinated a unit for the Patriots was the defense at Super Bowl 52 against the Eagles. The Pats allowed 41 points to backup QB Nick Foles and lost despite Tom Brady leading the offense to 0 punts and 33 points with 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 115 QB rating. That's the infamous Malcolm Butler benched game, which we need to make a video on that, bro. Why the hell was Malcolm Butler benched? That's one of the biggest mysteries, personally, for me as a football fan. If you know, let me know in the comment section or tweet me an article or something, because I definitely want to make a video on that. Now, a Boston sports fan responded to this saying, "You give Brady literally all the credit and none of the blame, 0. And Dove Kleiman made sure to mention 0 punts on offense and 33 points versus 41 points allowed to a backup QB in the Super Bowl, and Brady was facing a top 5 Eagles defense without both his number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. So yes, it's not on Brady, it's on Belichick and Patricia. Look, man, for all you know, this take could age like milk. I mean, I've had takes that looked horrible in the past before, like the Jamar Chase catching fiasco of 1 year ago, which you guys will never let me live that down. But in this instance, I don't think it's that bold of a take to say that,
what the hell is Matt Patricia doing coaching the offense?
I mean, with all due respect, there's so many good names out there that you could get to coach your offense, to give an opportunity as an offensive coordinator who would die to be Bill Belichick's offensive coordinator or offensive assistant with significantly better people skills than Matt Patricia. I'm trying to figure out what the hell Matt Patricia brings to the table. Now, like, maybe there's some secret Matt Patricia stans watching this video that could actually give me an analysis in the comment section down below. Maybe I'm just a casual and I'm sleeping on that remarkable 2004 season or his remarkable contributions during the 2001 to 2003 collegiate football season for Syracuse whenever he was an offensive graduate assistant. Maybe. But if you happen to know, let me know, because it's not that much of an upgrade, but I would say Joe Judge would make more sense than Matt Patricia. But I don't know what's going on in New England at this point, man. I mean, for all you know, it could work out, but I'm just confused. So if you know what's going on, let me know in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.